This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
We turn now to the case of Tonya Romero, an undocumented mother from Honduras and a recovering stage 4 cancer patient who is fighting to remain in the United States with her 4 children. 2 months ago, Romero was imprisoned by Immigration and Customs Enforcement at the privately owned Irwin County Detention Center in Georgia after she was pulled over for a minor traffic infraction and arrested for not having a driver's license. Her arrest and imprisonment interrupted life-saving medical treatment as she recovers from oral cancer. Romero remains locked up at Irwin, an immigration jail notorious for its abuse and medical neglect, where she is awaiting news about her case.
Tonya Romero has lived in Atlanta, Georgia for 20 years and raised her children there while working as a nanny, eventually a full-time construction worker. A deportation order against her had apparently been outstanding since 2008, but she didn't learn about it until a decade later, according to her family. This is Tonya Romero speaking on a phone call from detention Monday afternoon to her son, Christian Padilla Romero.
My experience here has not been easy. There are a lot of people inside this detention facility, so we don't get much sleep. I need to see my oncologist because I am not getting any care here. I need to see him. I had an appointment with the oncologist at the hospital in September, and I have not been able to see him yet.
That was Tonya Romero speaking from the Irwin Detention Center in Georgia. Her attorney requested a stay of deportation on humanitarian grounds because of her fragile health, but it was denied in September. Her son, Christian Padilla Romero, is not backing down. Padilla Romero, a graduate student at Yale University, has been leading a campaign demanding his mother's immediate release from detention and for ICE to kill her deportation order. He has a petition on behalf of his mom with nearly 30,000 signatures.
Christian is a PhD student in Latin American history at Yale University. He's a Honduran immigrant protected by the Obama-era DACA, that's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which grants undocumented immigrants who are brought here as children relief from deportation and a renewable work permit, as well as ability to study. He's joining us now from New Haven, Connecticut. Christian Padilla Romero, welcome to Democracy Now! I'm so sorry under these circumstances. Can you tell us what's happened to your mother? How did she end up in jail? And what you're doing to fight to get her out of this for-profit detention facility and prevent her deportation?
First of all, thank you for having me, Amy. I really appreciate you sharing this story. So my mother ended up in Irwin Detention Center after being pulled over for a traffic violation, and because she was in a county, Gwinnett County, that works with ICE through the program called 287G. After our family paid bail, the same few hours after, the police department held her on hold for ICE, and the next day she was already on her way to Irwin Detention Center. And since then, our attorney has been fighting to basically get her released so she can see her oncologist, specifically the appointment she had in early September, which she missed. So we have no idea where her cancer situation is at the moment in terms of the remission. We started this campaign last week because we are really fearful for her health, and we really want to ask for people's support to build pressure on ICE to release her while we await the pending motions to the courts.
Now, Christian, could you tell us something about your family's journey? You're from Honduras, but various members came at different times, and where you grew up, and how you ended up at Yale?
Yeah, so I always say that my mother has been, the single biggest reason why I ended up at Yale. My father was the first one to come, then my mother, and then I came along later. I came when I was 7 years old, and I went through the public school system, and I was fortunate enough to have some good mentorship and a very hardworking mother that worked multiple jobs to make my life easier and make my academic life easier, especially.
And you were raised largely in Georgia?
Yes. I've lived in Georgia up until, except for a few years in Georgia, up until college when I went to school in Pomona College in California, and now at Yale University.
Christian, you called your mother in detention Monday afternoon and asked what her message is for the community, as well as for President Trump. This was her response.
I want to thank all of you for your love and for your prayers. Thank you all for your efforts, for signing the petition and helping any way you can. What I would tell President Trump is that he should consider my delicate health and for him to give me the opportunity to stay in this country.
So can you talk about where the case stands now and the community response? I mean, you haven't stopped organizing. Talk about your work at Yale as a, what's the new phrase, documented student. How are students responding, professors? And, of course, this is happening around the country. Who are you linking up with?
Yeah, so the support has been really incredible. I mean, the petition itself was a very collective effort as well. I've had, help from peers here in the graduate school in my cohort. I've had help from professors. I have help from different organizers at, national immigration advocacy organizations. And so, I've received so many help, and especially since the petition. Just the signatures alone have been amazing, but I've also been contacted directly from people who want to help in any single way. We've also been able to get support from Congresswoman Lucy McBath's office in helping them submit an inquiry to ICE regarding my mom's case, and they're the ones at the forefront in terms of directly communicating with ICE regarding her situation and see what could be done in her situation. Like I said, my peers have been really influential and really key in this organizing effort because, for example, on Thursday, a lot of my peers organized a phone banking event in one of the buildings here at Yale, and where they called ICE, about like 90 students, I believe, called ICE over 2 hours, basically asking them to release my mother. And so that, among other things, are just an example of just the incredible support we're getting. My mother has known about this too. Every time I speak to her, I tell her about the new number of signatures or the people are helping, and she's just in awe most of the time because we expected support, but this kind of support has just been really amazing, and we're just really grateful for it.
And I wanted to ask you about the continuing problems in Congress and trying to fashion some sort of immigration policy reform. You were obviously protected by DACA, which President Trump has tried to rescind, but the courts have prevented him from doing it so far. But your mother would have been, it seems to be, protected by DAPA, the other policy that President Obama initiated that protected the parents of childhood arrivals. But the courts have basically sided with President Trump on his elimination of DAPA. Your frustration or your sense of what's going on in Congress or not going on in terms of immigration reform?
Yes, I mean, it's a very unfortunate reality. I mean, as you know, oral arguments will start next month at the Supreme Court over DACA, and we should have a decision by June. And so it's a very precarious situation. Unfortunately, what's happening, the effect has been that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of undocumented families have been torn apart, and many individuals, and as we know, kids are trapped in these detention centers with nowhere, with very little to do. Many people are not receiving the medical care they need or the accommodations they need, and that's really one of the basic things that could be at least done on very humanitarian grounds is address the issue of the separation of families and the long detentions and all these things. And unfortunately, there's been no political will so far from Congress, especially, to address this issue, and that's the reality that people like my mom, she's one of hundreds of thousands, of people who are trapped in this situation. For very unfortunate reasons.
In fact, in 2017, the Atlanta-based immigrant rights group, Project South, alongside Penn State Law, published a report documenting the abusive conditions at the privately owned Irwin Detention Center, where your mom is currently imprisoned. In response to her case, Project South's legal and advocacy director, Azadeh Shashahani, tweeted about the report's findings, saying medical care is woefully inadequate. As a result, outbreaks of illnesses like rashes, the flu, stomach illnesses remain rampant throughout the facility. Hashtag shut down Irwin, hashtag abolish ICE. The same 2017 report, Project South, said the lack of adequate access to medical care is alarming. The standard wait time for immigrants at Irwin wanting to visit the medical staff is between 2 days and 2 weeks. Once detained immigrants finally meet with medical personnel, their conditions are loosely diagnosed, their complaints are ignored. As we wrap up in these last 15 seconds, what do you feel is most important right now, Christian?
What's most important is, one, stop my mom's deportation. ICE has scheduled to deport her, and two, to release her so she can see her oncologist and get the cares that she needs, so her health is not put at a very grave risk.
We want to thank you so much for being with us. We'll continue to follow the progress of the case. Christian Padilla Romero, PhD student in Latin American history at Yale University. He's fighting against his mother, Tonya Romero's deportation order, demanding her immediate release from detention so she can be treated. Voters are heading to the polls today, and that's our next segment. We're going to look at ranked choice voting, and we're going to look at, well, innovative approaches to getting more people to vote in these midterm elections. We'll be speaking with the Colorado Secretary of State. Stay with us.